Hey guys, this is Callum from EnglishShooting and welcome back to the channel. As promised, today we're going to be going through how to fill out your online firearm or shotgun certificate application form. I did a video like this a number of years ago, but that was going through the old paper form. Now, some counties stuck in the Stone Ages are still using these paper forms, so if you're one of the unlucky people that have to still use paper, then a box will appear at the top of the screen so you can go and see that old video and follow that through. Now, there are many different avenues and you're going to see many different options. So for clarity, I'm going to be showing you what I've recently done, which is for a coterminous certificate. So that's for both a firearm and shotgun certificate. The process is pretty similar for just firearms and pretty similar for just shotguns, but throughout the video I will talk a little bit about those differences. Of course, many of you will know that I'm based in Hampshire. That means I need to go and apply to the Hampshire Constabulary. You will need to apply to your local police force as well, so don't just go on to Hampshire if you don't live in Hampshire. So you're first greeted by a page like this, very generic, and you're basically going to start filtering what you want to do on this site and what you want to apply for. We know we want to go for a firearm or shotgun certificate, so you're going to click that. Now it's going to ask, where do you live? This is just going to first ascertain whether you're applying in the right area, and it will be able to give you guidance if you're not in the right area and you need to apply to a different force. So put in your postcode, find your address and make sure that's correct. Now you have the option of whether you want to go for just a firearm certificate, a shotgun certificate, or, as we were talking about, the coterminous certificate for both firearms and shotguns. You also have the option here to apply for an explosives certificate, but again, we're just going for firearms and shotguns, so we're going to select that. Again, there's many different options: new certificates, renewing, or varying an existing certificate. We're going for a new certificate to cover firearms and shotguns. There's going to be a lot of guidance notes and accepting their terms and conditions. I would highly recommend going through the guidance notes. I know it's very easy to just click the box and move forward, but read through it. I'm going to try and give as much information as possible, but there may be things that I miss, and it's always best for you to have the utmost understanding of the process you're about to go through. So make sure you read all the guidance notes and then obviously confirm you've read it and proceed. Your details, these are going to be basic details, pretty much. No confusion here. Of course, your title, name, surname, if you've ever had any other names, because they're going to do some background checks on you. So if you've changed your name recently and they're not able to find any previous details, it's not going to help them out in their searches. The number one bit of advice for filling out these forms is be overly honest. The police are going to know pretty much everything about you. They're going to find out everything they want to know, regardless of if you offer it to them. And if they find information deemed to be relevant to your application that you haven't disclosed and should have disclosed, you could have your application thrown out, or even years down the line, we've seen people that have not disclosed stuff on their initial application. It's then come to light and they've actually had their certificates revoked. So be completely honest. Don't try and hide anything. So pretty straightforward. Again, your basic details, your contact details as well, your gender, your height. Again, this is for them to obviously build a picture of you and match it against any data that they may already have. This is where it now starts to get very serious, and again, you need to read it incredibly carefully and make sure that everything that you are answering is correct. In terms of the medical information, we've discussed previously about the GP form, so I highly recommend you go and get the GP form done before you start this application process, because with Hampshire, you only have 24 hours after submitting the application to give them the GP form, so you don't want it expiring and being rejected on that basis. But also, this is going to give you a good guide, because your GP may bring up something that you had forgotten about or weren't even aware of, which is on your medical record. So having that completed GP form is going to help with this section quite a bit. Read each of these carefully and make sure that you answer honestly and truthfully. You've got things like stress, dementia, depression, anxiety, bipolar, personality disorder, and also any physical conditions that you might have as well. You do need to provide your full details of your GP. Now, I found Google to be very helpful with this. Everyone's going to know who their local GP is. Just Google them. It's going to give you the practice name. It's going to give you the address and contact details. It doesn't necessarily have to be your exact GP, but the practice contact details, the general practice details, are going to be more than enough. The second one, again, just as serious with the health and medical information, offences. There's sometimes a debate of whether you need to put minor offences like speeding. You absolutely do, and I would rather tell them something they're not interested in than potentially leave off something that they deem to be relevant and will then effectively use that to take away the certificate. So I declare absolutely everything. Don't be tempted to play anything down. If you've ever committed an offence, it's not just a blanket no of you're not going to get a firearm or shotgun certificate. It will depend on the severity of the offence, how long ago it was, and other factors. So declare everything, and honesty is going to go a long way here with getting your certificate, and shows certainly an increased level of trust towards the police, potentially divulging things that they're not potentially interested in. You've got to put the date of the offence and then the offence itself. Now we're getting into what you're most interested in, the actual firearms and the ammunition. But you might think that these questions are maybe a little bit funny. Do you intend to acquire a firearm or firearms? And do you intend to hold ammunition? You might be thinking, well, why would I be applying for a firearm or shotgun certificate if I wasn't intending on acquiring either a firearm or ammunition? There are certain circumstances where people wouldn't want to obtain a firearm, and actually a lot of circumstances where people wouldn't want to obtain ammunition, mainly collecting. Some people are just interested in the guns themselves. They don't want to be shooting them. They just want to be able to collect them and admire them for the historical interest. But of course, for most people, you're going to want to answer yes for both of these. And of course, certainly the ammunition, you're going to want ammunition if you want to go and shoot. Once you've selected yes for both of those, you're going to be asked about the guns that you want to apply for. One thing to note about this section is that it's only specifically for firearms. If you're looking at getting, say, an over and under shotgun and it's just a two-shot shotgun, that is going to go under your shotgun certificate. You don't need to declare that here. This is, again, specifically firearm. And I know it gets confusing because they are asking about shotguns in the type, but this is for Section 1 shotguns. So don't worry about Section 2 shotguns declaring it here. Obviously, if you're after Section 1 shotguns unrestricted, you do still need to declare it. In theory, there is no limit for how many guns you can apply for. I've heard numbers of around 5 to 7 guns for first-time applications being the norm, so maybe use that as a guideline. But if you're an avid shooter, if you do a lot of shooting in a range of different disciplines and you have justification for every single one of those guns, then apply for everything. At the end of the day, after the application process, you will have a face-to-face interview. You will have a chance to talk it out with your firearm inquiry officer, your FEO. If you put down 20 guns, they may come back and say, well, you've never had a certificate before, so we really want to limit you to 5. You want to see how you get on with those and then maybe increase it over time. Once you've decided what guns you're going to go for, this is where you declare them. So you've got your caliber and your type, the reason, this is your good reason, your justification, then you can go through and add more. You don't actually need to be exact on the caliber, so for a 2.2 long rifle you can just put 2.2, that's not a problem at all. On the reason, I'm going to assume that you're a full member of a Home Office approved club. We've talked about vermin control and shooting on private land. That's not something that I'm so experienced on myself, and the majority of people obtain a firearm certificate for club target shooting. So what I put in the reason for my own was a full member of Kentucky Firearms Club, which I'm a full member of, and they are a Home Office approved club. For things like these Section 1 shotguns, which will go on the firearm certificate, I also added in there that I'm a full member of the UK PSA, and all that goes together to show the firearm inquiry officer that you're going to be competing in competitions and going to clubs where these guns are used, and that you are going to make use of them and therefore have good reason and justification for having them. After you've entered in all of your different guns, you can then go on to your security arrangements. Now, it may vary, but of course the most common is a cabinet. If you're lucky enough to have a gun room, well, lucky you, it's most people's dreams. There are other security arrangements as well, of course. For 1 or 2 guns, it's been said that you can get away with just a clamp on the wall, but if you're going for more than 1 or 2 guns, you're most likely at the minimum going to need a cabinet. The more guns you have, the more security the firearms officers are going to want. This is going to be stuff like monitored alarms, CCTV, having sensors actually in the room that the cabinet is going to be in. Other security arrangements may be leaving it at a registered firearms dealer, or even leaving it at your club. Some people may not be in a position with their accommodation where it would be suitable for them to keep the guns there, either in a gun room or a cabinet, or even with a clamp. So they may want to store it at a registered firearms dealer or leave it at their club. It is possible to share your security arrangements with another certificate holder. With a shotgun certificate only and shotgun section 2 shotguns only, this is fairly straightforward. With a shotgun certificate, there are no limits on what you can buy. This is why you didn't need to declare any section 2 shotguns in the previous list of firearms. It's probably always best to have all the shotguns signed on both certificates, but it is fairly straightforward for you to all have access. With firearms though, sharing a safe for security arrangements or storage is going to be a little bit more tricky, because you would both need the exact guns written on both of your certificates. But this is used in a lot of circumstances of couples, where couples will have mirrored firearm certificate. They have the exact same amount of slots, and they both sign on every single gun and share them on both of their certificates, meaning that they both have authority to possess and have access to those guns. But for most people, this isn't going to be a consideration. You're also going to want ammunition, which you're going to have to tell them how you want that stored. For Section 1 firearm ammunition, it does need to be kept separate from the gun. Shotgun ammunition does not, except for slug. So buckshot and birdshot ammunition is still classed as Section 2. Whilst you will require a certificate to purchase it, it doesn't require a certificate to store it. Anybody without a certificate can be in possession of buck or birdshot, which means that you can leave shotgun ammunition outside of a safe. If you want to put it in the safe, that's up to you, but it's quite bulky stuff. You're going to need a big safe. But for Section 1, so slug ammunition and all rifle ammunition and primers and stuff like that, you're going to need to be able to put that in a separate compartment to the guns. So now we're on to the referee details. If it's just a shotgun certificate you're going for, it's going to be 1 referee that you require. For a firearm certificate, you require 2 referees. There is a separate video on who you should be choosing for your referee and how to approach somebody about being a referee. A box will appear above to talk all about that if you want to go and follow that now. These are just your basic details of your referee. It may be worth taking a note of this now or watching that referee video so that you're aware of what details you're going to need to ask them. The last thing you want to do is get halfway through this application and realize you don't know what they do for a job, or you don't know what their address is. So this is all the stuff that they're going to be asking you. With the firearm certificate, there is a referee 2, exactly the same details you're going to need to fill in, so make sure you get all the same details from your second referee. Now we're on to everybody's favourite part, which is getting a good photo of yourself. I would highly recommend going down to the post office, going down to somewhere that does passports and passport photos professionally to make sure you get something that is 100% right. There's a lot of requirements, again, very similar to what you will need for a passport or a driving license. and it's not worth, again, having your application held up by a crap photo. So I would recommend going and getting it done professionally, and you know if it's good enough for a passport or a driving license, it's going to be good enough for your certificate application. This is the last segment, which is where you're going to be using them. So you may only be a full member of a club, therefore it's going to be club shooting, or you may have some land that you are going to shoot on privately that you have permission for, or you may be doing both. They're going to need details if you're shooting on private land of what land it is, who owns it, who's the contact details, and likewise with the registered club. Pretty straightforward, nothing really to trip you up on. You can go through and obtain these details. You're most likely going to have them already. So we've now filled out the full application, and it's now time to declare that everything is truthful and everything is accurate. So it's just a simple declaration, and also a chance for you to declare or tell them anything you think might be relevant to your application. Again, if there's something in the back of your mind that's niggling you and you haven't had an opportunity to maybe declare it or talk about it in the standard options during the application process, this is where you should potentially raise it. One big question I always get is, I'm under the age of 18, can I apply for a shotgun or firearm certificate? Yes, absolutely. There are many people under the age of 18 that hold both, and this is one slight addition. If you are under the age of 18, you will need a parent to sign off and declare on your behalf, a parent or guardian. Now this is pretty simple. You need to sign it, your parent or guardian needs to sign it, and you need to give details of who the parent or guardian is and their relationship to you. So you've now completed the full application, and this is potentially the most painful bit. You need to pay for it. Currently a coterminous certificate is £90. It gives some guidance to how long it's likely to take. This is also where it says you need to complete and submit the GP form. Again, Hampshire only give you 24 hours to get them the form. You are normally emailed a separate submission link or a separate email to send it to. So really that's it. It's pretty straightforward. There's no real pitfalls, there's no real trick questions with this. It's all details that if you've ever filled out insurance or if you've ever filled out a mortgage application, you're going to be more than capable of filling out a firearm or shotgun application. But if you have had a few questions, I really hope that this video has answered them for you. If you have any further questions, please use the comment section below. I'll try and get back to any questions you have to help smooth over your application. So thank you very much for watching this video. I really hope it's been helpful and informative, and it encourages some more people to fill out the application and get their certificates and get properly within the sport. If you have found this video useful and informative, please give it a big thumbs up, give it a share, and of course make sure you're subscribed for similar videos, reviews and other shooting news here within the UK. And of course, as always, I hope to see you soon.